Break down what's happening, Taurean. It's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, definitely, Brienne. We're seeing a drastic shift in the tone of today's proceedings, whereas committee members approach the questioning of accuser Christine Blasey Ford with caution, even yielding their time to a special prosecutor. Those same members voiced their frustrations with party politics during Kavanaugh's hearing, most notably this episode from South Carolina Republican Senator Lindsey Graham. Take a listen. Republicans all around the country are hoping to flip Indiana's one Democratic seat in November. Republicans here tonight actually believe that an endorsement from President Trump for their party's nominee could cause that to happen.
Yeah, the president said Joe Donnelly has gotten no bills passed on Capitol Hill. Donnelly says that is absolutely not the case.
Donnelly's calling it fake news. I talked to some voters after, and they said they were pretty satisfied with the job Jackie Walorski has been doing. And she's been pretty faithful to the president. Usually when she sends out press releases, it's usually to praise the president for something he's done. She's kind of separated herself a little bit on tariffs, I believe, recently. But overall, though, if she continues to align herself with the president, she should have a pretty comfortable stay in the Congress.
These guys are really going after each other. Is there any concern on the candidates themselves or perhaps the state party by all this?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Kelly Mitchell.
Brian, I don't think so. Now, the candidates tell me that they're just battle testing the nominee, whoever it may be, for his eventual showdown with incumbent Senator Joe Donnelly. What do you say to critics who like you, who say that you're a good candidate, but say that you're too young or too inexperienced to lead the party? Do you think that you did anything wrong in releasing this information to the media?
It's one of the most ridiculous things I've seen. It's exactly the process we used with Judge Gorsuch, now Justice Gorsuch.
I remember listening to your radio ad in English as the official language. What does that mean exactly? Do you not want other languages to be spoken?
Listen, for a nation to be sovereign, for a nation to be strong, it deserves to have a border. It deserves to have several things in common.
You, Stab and Peters, instrumental in making today happen. Talk about the process leading up to today's event.
Well, you know, the normal process is you got to get everything cataloged and approved within 5 years.
Videos like this one went viral 2 days ago. Students in Denver, Colorado walked out of class by the thousands to protest the decision to rescind DACA. But teens here at John Adams decided they wanted to make a statement as well. Folks on this side of town, they could find those two referendums here. It might be a slightly different ballot for everyone else, but there's still quite a bit of interest in the future of education in this county. We're still making our way through Ohio this morning, and we're on our way to Washington, D.C. Yeah, we also reached out to Senator Donnelly, Senator Young, and Congresswoman Walorski. All of them are preparing statements for us as they're headed out of D.C. for the weekend. We'll have that compiled for you in our special report on Saturday. So I scanned through nearly 400 pages of receipt reports his camp submitted and subtracted all loans before May 8th, and I was left with this number, about $350,000 Braun personally put into his campaign since the primary. So he's making the rounds to ensure Republicans keep control of the House and the Senate. In fact, he's doing so with this message behind me. If you can see it off in the distance, this is his new slogan and the new signage that's filling this arena. It's promises made, promises kept. Senator Dan Coates tells me Indiana is setting a standard for the country, and the recognition that our elected officials are getting is proof of that. And from the hallways of John Adams High School to the streets of the National Mall here in Washington, Michiana's youth were literally right out in front. I mean, we found them at the front of the rally to be a part of this growing national movement.
We want to change things, and we really think that enough is enough.
Among the hundreds of thousands of folks out in D.C. Saturday are a few familiar faces from many miles away.
And there are people from even farther than us. So I think it's really powerful that people from all over the country have made this trek because it means so much to all of us.
United, we'll never be divided.
No strangers to these movements. Adam High's students have been on the front lines before, but this time they're fighting for their lives.
Our safety is primary in our schools, and that is all we want, especially after having threats at our school. It's very important to us that the rest of our students and our peers feel safe.
That concern comes after the deadly school shooting in Parkland, Florida last month. These same teens organized a walkout for their student body in solidarity with schools all across the country. And although just about 20 of them showed up in D.C. for the March for Our Lives rally, they're setting a standard for the hundreds at their school waiting for them to return home.
We're really hoping that this inspires everyone at the school to go out and vote. I mean, all the seniors here can vote in this next election.
We were like, like, wait, what just happened? And we were like listening, going through online, seeing what just happened. Then I was a little bit angry for like 2 seconds. I was like, why would you do this to us? And then I cried for a minute, and now I'm okay.
50+ volunteers not sure what to think following a heartbreaking withdrawal.
It's time for the party that I step aside.
It's also time for self-reflection for those who campaigned hard for Mayor Pete Buttigieg until the very end.
I don't think anybody who was out there pushing the message right before this room was built up knew about it, but rolled with the punches, and we're still proud.
Heartbroken, but they understand why he did it.
Him pulling out of the race like this in order to move on and make sure we can get the vote done quicker and that we can come together quicker is selfless.
And win or lose, they say they see great things in the mayor's future.
Thank you guys for joining me again for this conversation. I wanted to talk a little bit about the blue wave. How do you guys feel going into it?
Well, I'm still as optimistic as I was in January of 2017. People know that Joe Donnelly is a hard worker. He has shown for more than 10 years that he's been a hard worker in Congress for the people of this community and for the people of the state.
Democrats in town say they're proud of Donnelly's record in D.C., so they're hoping come November, more folks in the Hoosier state will vote to send him back.
He's proven himself to be a productive public servant. He's been reaching across the aisle and been representing Hoosiers for years now.
That matters to these voters.
Come on, Mike.
But Republican voters, not so much. Thousands rallied one county over from here in Elkhart last week, all calling for Mike Braun to end Donnelly's time in the Senate with the president's blessing.
He's still fairly popular in the state, so aligning yourself with Trump could give you a big boost.
Well, you know, we could say that that was then and this is now, because we've seen a lot of elections. You take Pennsylvania, for example, where he won, and these other states where he's won. The candidate that he's been backing hasn't won. Take Alabama, for example. The candidate he backed in Alabama lost in the primary.
But even if the president's influence is inconsistent at best, could the Democratic Party effectively capitalize on it?
The criticism that I've been hearing about the Democratic Party, though, is you guys are having a hard time actually getting that message across.
You know, I think some of those criticisms are probably understandable, but I do think the Democratic Party has a message. I think it's stronger on the local level where parties can rally around particular messages that resonate specifically with the community. On a national level, it is harder. I think the Democratic Party will get there, though.
We wanted to send a message to Congresswoman Walorski that this is important to us and shine a light on what the bill that she voted for actually does.
A morbid message sent by a large crowd of folks that feel their voices aren't being heard.
Why won't she come out and tell us why she voted for this bill that takes health care away from thousands of her constituents?
Right outside the Congresswoman's doors, a die-in demonstration representing the actual deaths they believe will happen under the American Health Care Act if Medicaid is phased out. Right around the time these folks took to the streets, the Congressional Budget Office weighed in on the bill. By the numbers, they anticipate 14 million currently covered would be uninsured as soon as the bill is signed into law. 9 million more would lose coverage by 2026, but the report estimates the bill would cut the deficit by more than $100 billion in over a decade. Congresswoman Walorski saw silver linings in the CBO report, saying in part in a statement sent to ABC 57 News, too many Hoosiers are facing higher premiums, fewer options, and collapsing system under Obamacare. She goes on to say the CBO today again confirmed the American Health Care Act will provide relief to Hoosier families by lowering premiums over the long term. But some wish she relayed that message in person. Constituent Rose dressed today in an outfit she wore to her daughter's funeral just 2 weeks ago.
She would want me to be out here.
They're on Medicaid, which she says doesn't cover respite care, what her daughter Daphne needed during a fatal hypoglycemic episode overnight. She now has questions for Walorski.
Why we don't deserve the same insurance that she has.
I represent the cause of freedom.
Heated rhetoric sometimes meant name-calling, while others called for peace.
Let's come together.
Stop being nasty.
They're just three of many voices raised blocks away from thousands of ears.
I'm out here exercising what they call democracy, freedom of speech.
And the many cops on standby welcome their speech so long as it stays peaceful.
Certainly, if something were to happen, they'd be able to step in.
In preparation for the expected large crowds of protesters, the city of Cleveland had to get creative. Creative like using snowplows as barricades.
Police presence is excellent, and it looks like the setup is really good. I haven't seen any problems whatsoever.
Maybe no problems.
You're good, you're good, you're good, you're good.
But the venue did see more officers on alert.
Side effects of this heightened sense of security are longer wait times and longer lines.
Lines that went on and on for several blocks, but this inconvenience at least assured some they would be safe.
I try to be optimistic about that kind of thing. I mean, we're all for free speech and such, and it is what it is. I assumed that they were going to do a good job with security.